Here we are, and just announced yesterday the $280 million, how it's going to be dealt with. And you mentioned before going into this, after getting elected, you didn't realize that we were going to have quite this much of a deficit. So, and why is that?
Yeah, a couple of things that came into play. One is the school funding went up $230 million this year, K-12, off of the litigation, but then also the school bills they started sending in a lot more into the capital outlays area. Second piece is the Medicaid piece went up, a big spend on Medicaid. We've had a big growth of Medicaid, but then the spend went up substantially. So you had two cost drivers that we hadn't counted on. Right. The consensus revenue estimate had painted a picture of reductions this year. Those two big cost drivers were things that the total package is such that you got to deal with it, and that's what we've done, but didn't count on that big a cost growth.
Yeah, Sean Sullivan yesterday mentioned, I think it was over $100 million between the two of those that you just didn't think was going to happen.
Didn't think was going to be here this year. I mean, you had counted on the litigation because the legislature had passed that, but we hadn't counted on this additional growth in K-12, and we hadn't counted on this additional growth in Medicaid.
Okay, so we're $280 million, and you've got a plan. Legislature, for most of the money, for most of that, legislature is going to have to pass that for the transfer of funds. The 4% of all the agencies, how much are they going to hurt? How much are people going to be affected by? Do you think people will be affected by this?
People will be affected, but my hope is not that much. It's 2% annually, but because it's for half of a year, it's going to feel like 4% that they're going to have to come up with. We've been working with a number of agencies of what they can do, and what we try to do is to do this in as good a fashion as we could to produce as little amount of pain as possible. Quite a bit of the funds were taken from the additional increase that we were doing in CAPERS. So that's something we're dealing with, a past problem, the deficit that has been built up. CAPERS recipients right now, they're going to continue to get their CAPERS payment, but it doesn't continue to fix the hole as aggressively as we were fixing it previously. And then some of it's highway funds that we've had good bids come in. We're going to do all the T-works that we'd planned. We've been able to get some bids that were lower than what we had anticipated, but still you're pulling some funds there from the highway program to put into this.
Yeah, I actually spoke to the highway department yesterday. The biggest hit comes from them. It's over $100 million. When you take in operations, it's like 96 with the transfer there. And they told me that they're still going to be able to do all the projects, and they pretty much told me that it's a result of being very fortunate because of the bids coming in. The cost of construction's gone way down. The cost of borrowing's gone down as well. So they're going to be able to do all of that through 2016, but they don't know about 2017. Are you pretty much a proponent of infrastructure, are you?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
What I've said we can do and we will do is we're going to do all the T-Works programs that we had announced. And we're going to be able to get those done. But there are going to be a number of other enhancements probably that people would like to do. You're looking at probably not going to be able to get those done. Kansas has great roads. We regularly are in the top 5 in the country on quality of roads that we're ranked for. And we've invested in them over a series of years. And so we'll continue to do that. But you're probably, looking on out in the future, you're not going to have as many new build programs. Or if you do, they're going to have a toll component with it that you're going to have a lot of these are going to be toll roads, or a major piece of it will be tolling.
So that's the direction we're going with?
That's where the country's going.
Okay. Again, we're here. If the legislature wants to, say, put a hold on the tax cuts that are coming up, scheduled under your watch, what would your reaction be?
Well, everything's on the table. That's what we're doing right now, going through a budget process. We will propose a 2-year budget, and it will balance. It will balance in 16. It will balance in 17. And we're going to be looking at everything, and we'll propose that. I'll see what the legislature does with it, and I'll see what they do with the tax issues. I want to keep getting our taxes down and holding them down. I think it's a key part of us growing. It's helped us to grow. We have been a higher tax state in the region in the past, and we've generally had out-migration to surrounding states. We're now getting in-migration from surrounding states. Now you can say, well, I don't know if that's completely tax policy, and may or may not be, but we are getting it now. And I don't want us to go back to being a high tax state in the region, high income tax, because I think it does hurt your long-term growth.
What do you think about the Barry Finchbaugh of, used to be at Kansas State, ag economist, I think? You don't cut taxes, you just shift taxes around. In other words, are we going to feel this on the, if these continue, we continue down the road of, fewer taxes, will the, we've got property taxes, will they be affected? How do you respond to people who see this?
Property taxes are dominantly a local tax.
Right. Well, I mean, the shifting of that from state to local and, to counties and municipalities, and saying that you can't lower taxes, you'll just shift them around. In other words, the burden's on them instead of the state. That's the comeback to your
Yeah, I mean, Barry's been arguing that for some period of time. And what the history has been actually in this state is as you've increased income taxes, property taxes have gone up. So there's not a correlation between the dropping of income taxes and property taxes going up. The correlation is actually the opposite direction. And these are separate pools of income. And plus, if you want to grow as a state, and we do, the key is getting your income taxes down. I can show you a number of models in the country where you get your income taxes down, and over a long period of time, this isn't, you're seeing it next year, that those states that generally hold their income taxes down tend to be your faster growing states. And that should actually help on features like property tax or other things, although your property valuations may end up going up more because you got more growth taking place in the state. Sure. So that would be, but most people are more satisfied with that. If my property tax is going up because my value has gone up, they're a little more understanding of it. Okay,
so if the legislature comes back and says, these tax cuts, we're putting a moratorium on them right now. No chance that you're going to veto any legislation?
Look, I usually don't take a position in the hypothetical because I've found over time that just gets you in trouble. What I'm going to do is I'm going to propose a budget, and the legislature will have to come back, and I'll see what they come up with and what the total package of it is that we move forward with. I think we're in overall. We've got some budget issues to address right now, but we're seeing growth taking place in this state, so I think we're in a good position long term.
Okay, the last question on this would be Capers taking a $41 million hit. All right, and Sullivan told us yesterday that that's going to have an effect on them, and right now it's scheduled to, without the $41 million hit, scheduled to get back on course, solvency again in about 20 years, I think. And what's going to be done about that? How are you going to address that to keep that back on the path that you've championed, actually?
Yeah, I have, and we've gotten a long ways. When I came in, we were second least funded pension system in the country. Now we're up kind of middle of the pack in our rankings in the country, and that's a big jump in a short period of time. The problem is sustaining that near term when we've got some budget challenges right now. But we've got other things we can look at. When we did the Capers reform last time, people were looking at bonding some of it. They were looking at other possibilities. What I hope we can do is let's get those back into discussion, see if the legislature wants to address some of those as additional ways to address the past hole.
Okay.
We're talking about past sins here, not the current ones. We've been doing things to fix the system, and we've been adding money into the system. Now we're at a challenging point. What I try to do is to not do allotments on education, K-12 or higher education, on Medicaid. That's 70% of your budget, a little more than that, when those three programs. So when you say we're not going to allot in those, you have challenges of how you're going to fix it with other pieces of the budget.